Have you ever felt God calling you into something just so you step out in faith and follow that something, thinking, well, this is God's will, so things have to work out, just to find that things are not working out so smoothly? That calling you were once so sure about now sounds more like doubt, panic, and regret. Instead of a secure, clear calling, you feel more like a wandering nomad without even a cloud for guidance. Well, you're not alone. In today's episode, I'll be talking with Aimee Swanner.
Hey, y'all.
She'll be sharing about a time in her life where God pushed her out of her comfort zone, stripped her from the things she knew, but ultimately set her feet on the rock and made her steps secure. Be encouraged as we learn how God did a work in Aimee's life. Aimee, thanks so much for coming out today and for sharing your story. I know it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, thanks for having me with you. I felt really honored that you'd asked me to be a part of your podcast. So thanks.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. So tell us, where does your story start?
Well, my story begins in the spring of 2014.
Man, that's a little bit ago, but not too long ago.
It was a minute ago.
Yeah. So what was your life stage? What was going on during that time?
I was 33 years old when I felt the Lord calling me away from my professional life in the NICU at St. Francis. My husband, Brent, and I had been married for 12 years, and our oldest son, Elijah, was 5 years old and starting kindergarten in August.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a big life change. I mean, you guys were kind of already settled and
definitely,
what you guys were doing, your rhythms were already there. Just to have this big change, why did you feel like the Lord was calling you in that direction?
Well, from a very young age, I always knew that I would devote my professional life to serving children through healthcare. After 10 years in the NICU, working 12-hour night shifts, that was hard. The Lord started dealing with my heart about leaving the specialty profession that I loved so much and finding something that would allow more family time for me. Time that I felt like I needed to be a devoted mom, to serve my family well, and not be a tired, grumpy zombie. That was me. I wanted to be able to balance school life with my 5-year-old and still be the wife that the Lord has called me to be.
Yeah, I mean, my husband worked in the ICU as a nurse for a while, and that was tough. I mean, that 7 on, 7 off, and working night shift. He worked night shift for the first few years of our marriage, and when Asher came along, I was like, we got to do something different, because I just can't.
It's hard. It's hard being a single parent and trying to be the best version of you for your husband and for your child and not be mean and grumpy all the time.
Yeah, because you're not getting the rest, really, that you need.
It's a lot different on the night shift.
Yeah. Oh, it was rough. I remember this day. So I totally understand you from that point. While I was staying home, more and just being available for your family, something you felt God calling you to, because I think all of us like to stay home more, especially with their kids when they're young. But why was it something specifically you felt God was calling you to?
Well, I felt like I wasn't giving my family the best version of me when I was working in the unit. I feel like my family, they got the leftovers. They just got what I had left. I know that as a wife and as a mom, it broke my heart to hear my husband or my child say, oh, mama's asleep, or gotta be quiet, or mama's not feeling too well. She's a little bit grumpy today. She didn't get very much sleep. So I think that just, it broke my heart. And I didn't know what Elijah's kindergarten days were going to look like. Elijah struggled with hearing deficits as a toddler. We had buttons, we had surgeries, several surgeries, and we were still walking that road of speech therapy several times a week.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be on my best game so that I could help him navigate school.
Yeah.
Working nights and not being home with Elijah to help with homework. That weighed heavy on me because we just didn't know how well he was going to be able to perform in the school setting. My heart's desire was to be at home with him more.
Yeah, help be that support, because, man, school is hard. I did some teaching in my day, and I know before I left, basically kindergartners, by the end of it, kind of should be reading a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
I mean, for us as kindergartners, I remember we were just trying to, open up the glue and paste things on the construction paper.
It's not like it used to be. So kudos to you on that. Just having that intuition. I know, like, hey, this is something really important for him.
Right.
That you needed to be there for.
Absolutely.
Especially knowing he might have some challenges along the way.
Right.
Just to be like, I need to really, really be there, be that support for him.
Definitely.
So, yeah. Good for that. So leaving the NICU, like, was that a struggle at all? Like, or was it just like, nope, this is my family. I'm going to leave there. Or was there any kind of struggle or thought into that?
Yeah. I mean, I struggled. I struggled hard. Neonatal nursing is all that I ever wanted to do professionally. I was doing what I loved. I loved the people that I worked with, and I adored the families that I was serving in their most vulnerable moments of life. It was my passion. I didn't know it then, but in the middle of resigning my full-time position and coming home with no plan for the next job, I realized that my identity had been vainly wrapped up in my profession. It certainly is not something that I'm proud of, but the Lord used that time to humble me.
Wow. Man, I just think it's so easy to do, though, Aimee. Like, it's so easy to get what we're doing for a living to become like, well, that's who we are. That's what I do. You know, That's what I do for majority of my days, you know, to be wrapped up in that and to become, you know, more than just a role, but who we are.
Right.
You know? So something we have to be really guarded against and be aware of for sure.
Definitely.
You know? But by the way, I have this great podcast called Up from the Muck that also talks about identity. So if you guys have not heard that, you should go and check it out.
Yes, those are amazing. You need to listen to them.
Yeah, but I definitely know what you're talking about. And that happens to a lot of it. It's happened to me. So like, I get it. I understand for sure. So, but what happened next? Like you know, it was a struggle. You're struggling with figuring that out.
Of course. So I resigned my full-time position in the neonatal intensive care unit in June of 2014. And 2 weeks later, I cleaned out my locker and I came home.
But didn't God start on your heart a little bit earlier? Like, wasn't it like March or something earlier?
Yeah. So I'm real hard-headed and the Lord speaks. I listen. But then I like to doubt. Are you sure this is what I need to be doing? Lord, if this is what you're calling me to, I'm going to need that big red fire truck moment that's just going to need to run me over.
Where's that neon sign? Like,
exactly. Yes, I need the neon sign, Lord. So I struggled in the unit for several months until I finally said, okay, we're doing this. I had a really hard night, one night as the charge nurse, and had to make some really hard decisions that I didn't want to have to make. And I felt like the Lord used that moment to say, I've been telling you to go home. I've got other plans for you. But finally I said, okay, I'm throwing my hands up and we're going. Yeah. We have other things planned. So I went home. In July.
So you put your 2 weeks in, and it was actually July when you finally walked away. Within those 2 weeks, did you ever waver and like, oh no, I made a mistake. I'm going to go back. Hire me back.
Yeah, I definitely had moments when I thought that I completely lost it. As a matter of fact, because of all the life stresses, I required a cardiac workup. Oh. Yeah, that was fun. Just life stresses. I really feel like I can handle stress in my life, that I'm a good person. I can check all the boxes and do all the things. But the Lord used that again to kind of slow me down. And
there is a limit.
There is a limit. I am human. Yeah. Whether I wanted to think that I was, I'm Superwoman. I can handle this. I got this. I mean, we're making some life changes, but it's going to be okay. We've got it. I needed to stop for a minute. Yeah.
Wow. But still, that's just a really big life decision, just changing like that. Like, I think that would have been scary for a lot of people, just having to go from like 10 years of having this secure job.
Right.
To making that kind of a change. Like, how did that make you feel?
Actually, I really felt confident. I felt overly confident that I would be offered a job in the school system so that I could be on my son's schedule. I mean, who wouldn't want an ICU nurse with 10 years of experience in their district?
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously.
Come on now. We got this. But I was very, very overconfident in myself and my experience. The Lord used the next few months to humble me and to teach me to focus solely on Him. It was stressful, it was hurtful, and it was extremely humbling. It's a season that it was a season of humbling in 2014. Humbling.
So, Aimee, just gotta ask. So, like, you quit in the summertime.
Yep.
So, school's approaching.
Yep.
Was it ever like in your back of your mind, like, oh, they're just gonna have a school nursing job opening? Like,
That's exactly what I thought.
I'm sure. Like,
yeah.
And there wasn't like any.
No, there was none.
Zero?
No.
Oh my God.
They said none. So I was, yeah.
And you're like, really? Like none?
None.
Any?
There was no jobs to be had. It was not one of my finest moments.
Wow, it's tough. Wow. Just how crushing. That's all I can think of. It was like,
yeah,
wow.
It was definitely crushing. Definitely made me doubt myself. I sat in fear of what was to come because I'm a planner and I like to have a plan, and my plan usually works. Again, the overconfidence that the Lord was knocking me down. He was in the process of bringing me down a few notches.
So how did you handle like learning about that? Like how did you process that?
Well, I was discouraged over the fact that when I approached the school district for a nursing job, they told me no. I don't do well with no.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a position to fill, and they weren't going to have any positions prior to the school year beginning. I knew that the Lord was calling me into the district, and I didn't have a plan B. So when I was told that there were 0 positions to be had, I had a freak out moment. I'm not going to lie about it. That was my freak out moment. I knew the Lord would make a way, but I had tons of self-doubt about being worthy of Him making a way for me when I failed to trust Him on the regular. And I would still lay those thoughts of self-doubt at His feet every night. We'd talk about it. I know, Lord, you called me to this. You're going to bring me through this. But it never failed. Every morning when I got up and I would check my email to look for a job that might deal.
Hey, I don't know. Maybe it's there.
That's right. There might be a job here. I picked up that worry every morning. I didn't know, okay, Lord, what am I going to do? How am I going to help support my family financially? Have I totally messed this up? I left my dream job and I've come home to unemployment. I was unemployed. I wasn't helping my family at all. I was a mess.
Or so you felt. I mean, because, oh man, I've had to leave a few jobs, and it does kind of play with your mind. You're like, man, first of all, and this is me. Like my husband never said this whatsoever, but I'm like, I just feel like I needed my money.
Yes.
I felt like I might have to start asking to spend money, which my husband never said that.
Right.
It was never ever communicated that way. But in my own head, I was like, oh, it's not like our money anymore because I'm not putting money in.
Right. Well, I feel like as women, we always want to contribute to our family. Although there are so many ways for us to contribute.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have to contribute financially. But for myself and for you, I think we felt like that. I just felt like I needed to be a part of bringing in something.
Yes. And I even I mentioned just for myself on that, or even for spending or whatever, but it's more than that. It's not just that, just like you want to help. And I'm like, because now we got all these things to pay for, the mortgage. And so, yeah, we can still pay for that, but now it's going to be a little bit harder to pay for that. Or like, we're going to have to miss out on other things and then you feel guilty about that.
Guilt.
So it's just like,
Yes, guilt played a huge part in this moment. In that moment, I felt very guilty.
Man, I can just feel the sting of that right now. Just, hearing you talk about it, especially I kind of thought that was the plan. I thought it'd be kind of simple to walk into, and nope. Just like, no.
It was not. Yeah. It was not simple. Although I thought, yes, I absolutely thought that it was going to be this simple, easy transition. It was going to be beautiful. It was going to be this great time of coming home. I would be with Elijah during school. We would be able to see each other. I wouldn't be a grumpy zombie in the afternoons. We could sit down and do homework together.
Yeah.
I could make a snack.
Yeah. Be one of those moms.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Like nursing though, or having nurses in the school district and all, those are kind of hard to come by. Me being my school background, I kind of know about that. It's kind of like librarians as well.
Yes.
Like if someone has to pass away.
Yes.
Or retire.
Yes.
And that's the only way you have an opening. And there's not as many of those positions out there as you do like the teaching position or some other positions, those are just, you might have one for the entire school.
Right.
So therefore you don't have as many of those. So yeah, I can see how that happened though. Really, really tough thing to go through. But was there a turning point? Like what gave you hope and how did you keep yourself encouraged?
I knew that the Lord was calling me to this. I knew he would see me through it. His plan is always better than mine. Those that know me well, they know that I'm a planner. I like things organized. I like everyone to know their job. I love to see a plan executed perfectly. And if I can't do it well, I'm not going to do it. That's just me. And I thought I had this beautiful plan.
Yeah.
We all had our positions. We all knew what we were going to be doing. But oh, how the Lord had other plans. Those months in the waiting got real messy for me personally. I doubted myself. I doubted the Lord's calling. My pride was bruised.
Yeah.
My heart hurt because I now saw that I placed so much importance on a job status when my life status is rooted in Christ. And he's the one, he holds my identity.
Yeah. So maybe the push to go was a little deeper than what you initially thought,
Absolutely. I needed this time of refining, this time of humbling. I needed that to refocus and focus on Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, God, he just uses some strange tools sometimes to get us where he wants us to be and to help us grow. And I learned some similar lessons, when I first graduated college. I just thought I'm a planner as well. I did all the things. I followed the plan. So surely, I wasn't going to struggle.
That's right.
Finding my career.
That's right.
I made this plan and that wasn't going to be me. Yeah. Life doesn't work out that way. And the Lord had his plans for me as well. And I learned a similar a lesson and was greatly humbled and needed to be humbled.
Right.
Needed that. So I definitely resonate with that for sure. And humility, it's a great thing to bring us closer to the Lord for sure.
Definitely. It's definitely a life lesson. I think humility, it's not just something that we have to learn one time. We have to pick that up over and over again. And we have to stay humble. As Christians, I feel like we already have a target on our back to be better than thou. Yeah. When we're just as messy, we're just as sinful. Pride gets in the way. I think that that's so important for us to seek humility in all things.
And I really, since I've lived life over the years, right? Just seeing that, I think that's one of the biggest qualities of Jesus, is his humility, because he came in a manger, right? Because a big part of humility is not asking for the things that you think or know you deserve, and just kind of recognizing, especially for us, because we are on level playing field, but for Jesus to exude that the way that he did and how he treated others, I think that's one of his biggest qualities. So when we're tapping into that, we really are being the most Christ-like as when we're exuding humility. Yes. So I think that's one of the biggest and best lessons for us to learn and to recalibrate all the time is that one. Yes.
Be humble. Be humble for sure.
So how did you know that God was speaking to you? Back to your story. We took a little time out to talk about that.
No,
but back to your story. How did you know that God was speaking to you?
The school year began and I dropped my firstborn off at kindergarten. I was still unemployed.
Yeah.
no job on the horizon. And I remember the first day so clearly. I came home, I made a cup of peppermint tea, and I went and sat out on the back patio to enjoy the moment. I was resting in his peace. I had such peace in knowing that the Lord was still working on my behalf.
Yeah.
Even though I doubted my trust in what the plan was, my plan was not working, clearly.
Yeah.
I was home, unemployed, but I still had peace in the moment. Walking through those weeks humbled me and refocused me.
Yeah. So how did you move from panic mode? Because you mentioned earlier you had like a cardiac arrest moment.
Yes, it was panic. Yes.
To I must make my own plan and, find myself a job, to enjoying the moment. Like, how did you move from that? Because I guess it's been 2 months since you're in that season.
Yeah.
How did you go from panic mode to enjoying the moment mode? How did you do that? And just being at peace with him.
Yeah, my focus changed. Instead of giving Christ my leftovers, like I felt like I'd been giving my family, I learned to give him my best. I started focusing on my relationship with Christ instead of my worries of, I don't have a job. I don't know where the next job is going to come. I really felt at peace knowing that he was at work for me. He stripped me of the status quo identity of an NICU nurse.
Yeah.
And he was clothing me in his righteousness. In that moment, he was making new things.
Yeah.
He's the author of my existence. My identity is in him. He is for me.
Yeah.
He was making the impossible possible on my behalf, and I didn't even know it.
So you say that, what do you mean by that? Like, what was he making the impossible possible?
Well, I knew that he was working behind the scenes, that he was preparing my heart for what was coming in the next month or so.
Yeah.
He was humbling me. I needed that moment.
Yeah.
I needed to be prepared for what he was bringing before me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, were there any like Bible verses or songs that got you through that?
Yeah, absolutely. When you asked me to do this podcast with you, I pulled out my prayer journals from 2014, and Ecclesiastes 3 was scribbled on the page that was dated for my resignation from the unit. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a big fan of Ecclesiastes. It's hard for me, but for this to be written back then, I wanted to share a little bit of Ecclesiastes 3. There's an occasion for everything, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing, a time to search and a time to count loss, a time to tear down and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. If you scoot on down to verse 14, it reads, God works so that people will be in awe of him.
Yeah.
In my journal, I wrote, we're stepping out of the boat and trusting in our Heavenly Father to meet our needs. Oh, how the Lord tested my trust in that situation. I didn't know then what I was writing in my prayer journal would be so hard.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do this. This is going to be easy. It's a part of the plan. I've got it written down. This is going to be easy. I failed to trust my father on the regular during that time of waiting.
Yeah.
I argued with him. I doubted what I thought he was calling me to. But even in my doubt, even in my ugliest moments of argument with him, the Lord was faithful to meet our needs. He was still meeting our needs financially. He was meeting our needs spiritually.
Yeah.
He was meeting our needs in a time of rest. It was amazing to not be working nights.
Yeah.
And to be sleeping on a normal schedule.
Yeah. Because you guys lose a day. Like, it takes a whole, like, day and a half before you're actually able to enjoy your week off.
Yeah, really. It really is. You gotta prepare and sleep it off. But yeah, he was, you know, I'm still looking back. I'm still in awe of his greatness and his goodness to me.
Yeah.
When I didn't deserve it. When I was really angry and hurt and prideful in that moment. But he used that time for me to refocus on him and to trust.
So how did you meet your needs in the waiting? Like, how long did you have to wait?
In September of 2014, 2.5 months after I left the NICU for a career change, he answered my prayers and made clear the calling that he had placed on my heart back in the spring. I received a phone call from the school district about a school nurse position that had become available.
What?
Wow. Yeah. What is exactly right? This is the position that I needed to get my foot in the door and to be on the same schedule with my son. I was in awe of that phone call, but how the Lord can do what he wants to do.
He is sovereign.
Yeah.
So was it at the same school as your son? Was it somewhere else at first?
No, it was a different school than where my son was. Ultimately, my plan, my perfect plan was that they would just, you know, slide me on in to that job with my baby and we would be able to go to school together. But the Lord definitely, his plan's perfect.
Yeah.
His plan is way better than mine. So I wasn't at the school that my son was at for that season.
Are you at the same school as him now?
I am. Awesome. We go to school together. I'm actually, with my baby. We have had another child since Elijah. Elijah is now in middle school, but we've got some space there between our boys. But we get to drop Elijah off at the middle school, and then we get to skip on over to our school together. So it's amazing to be able to have those mornings with my boys, the opportunity to have conversation, and be able to pour Jesus into them, even in our little short drive to school.
Yeah, it is special for sure. So, how did that situation impact your relationship with God moving forward? What did you learn about His character?
Well, that particular school was the mission field that I had been praying for. My prayer was always this: Lord, place me somewhere where I can be on mission for you. Allow me to care for children's medical needs while also being a light for you.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. He put me in a place where I was able to pour into the least of these. And probably that first year was more about me than it was about the children that I served. Being able to pray over them in the silent, let my compassion, let Jesus' compassion shine through me. Yeah. A lot of times, in the school nursing position, it's not about a medical need. Yeah. It's about some love and some tenderness, and a Band-Aid fixes a lot. Just need some love. Let them know that they're okay. And, just give them some positive words to speak over them and to breathe into their life. So my first year was definitely a growing experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mean you don't have to work at a church to be a missionary or do the Lord's work?
No, girl.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
How often we, as Christians, we feel inadequate in sharing God's goodness in our workplaces. Yeah. I mean, we think, we're in school. Yeah. So can't really talk about God. But that's our mission field. Wherever the Lord has placed us in our jobs, that's where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be sharing His light and His love in those places. I love that we can be on mission every day.
Everywhere. It's not limited to those who have a seminary degree or work at the physical church. Because, you and I, we are the church in that way.
That's right.
And
it doesn't have to be at our job place either. It can be at the grocery store.
Yeah.
We're all missionaries.
Mm-hmm. Just living it out how God really intended us to do that, because that's what it really means to be his follower and to be one of his, is to act like him all the time, because it's part of you. It's not just this thing you can turn on and turn off.
Right.
You're not punching it in like a time clock for work and then punching it out like it's just you. It's part of you.
That's right.
So, yeah. And I was making a sarcastic comment earlier, and I hope it came off as sarcastic because I was laughing about that. Like, oh, you don't have to be just, working in church for that. But I just think it's so easy for us to get our minds in the opposite way. Like, oh, it has to be this kind of person that can share Jesus.
Right.
Or this isn't really sharing Jesus. I'm just putting a Band-Aid on somebody's finger.
Right. No, I totally get your point. And I think that it's our job. We can't just leave it to our international missionaries or our pastors or our deacons, anyone else. We are called to be missionaries. And I'm being a missionary. Yeah. Every time that I put a Band-Aid on a Bobo that really doesn't need a Band-Aid. But if I can speak God's love and his light into those children when I'm really not even speaking about God, I'm just doing what the Lord has called me to do. I'm on mission.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. 100%, for sure. Man, that's good. I love hearing about that. And I love talking about that, just how we are being Jesus in those moments, because we are. And sometimes it's the only Jesus people see.
Absolutely.
And experience. So it's really important that we remember that, Man, so what would you tell someone? We've had this really great conversation. I loved it. What would you tell someone that's going through their own mucky moment?
I think I would tell them just to be humble and be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with the Lord. He already knows your doubts and your fears. He knows your failures. He sees my failures. But the Lord desires for us to cry out to him. He wants to be in a relationship with us. He wants our focus to be on him.
Yeah.
He will place your feet on the rock. He will be your firm foundation for those days that you doubt. He will give you manna for each day. When you don't think you can go a step further, you just look to him and he's going to give it to you. He's going to give you manna for each day. Keep seeking Christ, even in the messy moments. 2014 was messy for me.
Yeah.
It brought a lot of humility. But in those moments, I regained my focus on Christ, and he gave me the best. Yeah. So I'm appreciative of his desire to commune with me, to be in a relationship with me, even in my messy.
Yeah, I think it's also, I'm just going to pull this out too. I think it's great, 'cause I'm sure you weren't a new Christian in 2014, were you?
I was not a new Christian in 2014.
No, I think it's just refreshing and just, it just feels good to know that God keeps working on us. Like he doesn't say, oh, well, I'm done with you. You've already checked the box.
Yes.
That's as far as you can grow. No, he continues to work with us and to bring us to new heights, you know, and to mold us more like him so we can not only do more things for him, but also be along for the ride and experience those great things that he has for us. Yes. And to me, that's just another great token to God's great love for us.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing that if we just step away, try to get out of our plan.
Yeah. Oh, that's hard.
Yes. And just give him control. He's going to provide in the moment and he's going to sustain us.
Yeah. He will. Well, Aimee, thank you for sharing your story. I'm so glad you were able to come out today. I know someone needed to hear it. Someone did.
Thank you so much for having me with you. This has been really fun.
Yeah, me too.
My name is Aimee, and this is my story of the middle.
Yeah. This is your host, Brandy Bostic, and you've been listening to the Up From the Muck podcast. If you're interested in getting a little extra, check out my Patreon account in the show notes for ways to get merch and other cool perks.
Psalm 40, verse 2. He brought me up from a desolate pit, out of the muddy clay, and set my feet on the rock, making my steps secure.